How much would you pay for a single dynamic driver IEM in 2026? $100? $500? $900? Well, what if I can withstand a hydraulic press? Stay till the end to find out. This is the new Astru from Meze, one of the best single dynamic drivers that I have heard, and I'm going to compare it and rank it to some of the best dynamic drivers and see how the Astru stacks up. Starting off with the overall sound, the Astru is full, natural, well balanced in the mid-range, the treble. It has a slight sub-bass boost and a firm, impactful, textured mid-bass presentation, but most importantly, this has one of the best soundstage I have ever heard on any IEM, aka it's got the sauce. The Astrus are a higher volume set, and I highly recommend you give these enough juice or else it's not gonna reach its full potential. But that aside, for those who heard the original MIM Dark Magician, which is a legendary single DD that is now discontinued, the Astru is a slight upgrade to the original Dark Magicians with a deeper and more extended sub bass, a little bit more treble when it comes to the air, and slightly more detail. Now, a lot of people describe the OG DMs or the Dark Magician soundstage as special with like a ball-like 3D imaging that wraps around your head, and I am happy to report that the Astru is similar to that. Basically, the soundstage starts off around you like the OG DM, but instead of just kind of staying there, the end notes on the Astru has a prolonged decay that extends outwards and lingers on just a little bit longer afterwards. Now, what this essentially does is that it maintains the ball-like factor when it comes to the staging, but it removes the downside of having that like more intimate and closer feeling because the sound is wrapping around you. Instead, the echoes and the reverb on the Astru creates like a bigger sense of space as the sound echoes outwards. You can picture this as a wave of sound slowly, pushing the stage further and further from the start point and creating just a little more space with each linger and notes and reverb as the stage becomes a little bit more immersive. This is noticeable when I A/B'd it to the Monarch Mark IVs on Birds of a Feather. For example, at the 1 minute mark, you just hear more of the decay and the air echoing, longer in Billy's voice after she stops singing. The decay essentially stops when her vocal stops on the Mark IVs, but the Astru lingers like a little bit longer and has that natural reverb effect echoing out without coming off as gimmicky or unnatural. And when it comes to the immersion, tonality, scaling, the quote-unquote special factor, I would definitely pick the Astru over the Mark IVs and a lot of other IEMs. Go check out the ranking list. However, for the price, I would have liked the Astrus to be a little bit more resolving and a little bit sharper when it comes to the imaging. Maybe the separation could be a little bit more cleaner. Like, it's still pretty good overall, like you're getting pretty decent performance, but when it comes to the detail, imaging, separation, you can get, I would say, arguably better stuff at around $500 or even like $300 with the Horizons. Like at $500, you're looking at the Rockies, the High 4 Mark IIs, the Top Pros, T Pro SC, like even some of the older stuff like the Moondrop variations are gonna sound a little bit more technical and detailed. Now, obviously, those IEMs are gonna have the special staging and they don't have that natural and high scaling potential. So when it comes to immersion, overall timbre, and just getting lost in the sauce, the Astrus are much more musical to me, and they're more on a similar level of immersion as the original EJ07s and the original Dark Magicians. So essentially, you're trading off some technical performance for peak endgame immersion and that sauce, which I would personally take any day of the week, hence the high ranking. Now, genre-wise, the Astrus are very versatile. I could basically play any track on these and they're all gonna sound pretty great. Personally, I like R&B, jazz, indie, slower rock and pop to work the best on these, but even K-pop, J-pop at mid-volume doesn't sound too energetic. These again are pretty smooth and they're full enough to balance out the extra energy. The low end texture and the weight plus the echoey, reverby stage just makes it a very enjoyable musical experience. Then tip-wise, I will stick with the gray stock tips. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. If you change it, it might affect the staging and the sound. I think these work very well. They have a lot of sizes. You can kind of try it around. I don't think fit should be an issue unless you have like insanely large ear holes. Then I guess in that case, try like a bigger, wider tip. Go check out the tip guide for that. But speaking of fit, these are hands down one of the most like comfiest IEMs I've used along with the Meze Albas. Now, obviously your ears may vary, but for me, they are super ergonomical. They're light, They still are very well built. You know, they're fully metal. It fits me like basically perfectly. Like I can use these for 8 hours a day. It feels like I'm basically not even wearing anything. And then when it comes to scaling, these are fantastic again at high volumes. Completely different sound once you give it more juice. Scales just as good as the original EJ07s, and again, one of the most immersive IEMs out there. But speaking of the original EJ07s versus that, the stage presentation on the EJs are less forward when it comes to the low end, the vocals. They're not as, I guess, in your face. They feel a little bit more cleaner, more open, more mid-range centric. Female vocals are gonna sound sweeter, you know, have better clarity, better separation when it comes to acoustic guitars, more enjoyable when it comes to ballads, slower songs, instrumentals. The Astru, on the other hand, is better balanced. It has a heavier and more textured mid bass. Overall, note weight is also fuller and more weighted. The sub bass extends a little bit deeper. It has like better, again, balance, more versatile overall, and it does have that reverb feeling to the stage versus the more open and clean sound of the EJs. Next, versus some other highly acclaimed single dynamic drivers like the SOFTEARS TWILIGHT and the NIGHTJAR SINGULARITY, the Astru to me is still more immersive for my library and my ears because of the extra reverb, the better scaling. Overall, it just has a more natural tonality. For example, versus the Twilights, even though the Twilight is very good for male vocals, it's powerful, it's extended, it's natural. I would say it's even like slightly more specialized than these. It has equally great mid-bass texture, you know, slightly more warm leaning compared to the Astros, but it still has a good sense of stage. It's not closed off, and overall tech and resolution also very solid. However, I just can't crank the Twilights as much as the Astros, which means that they're not gonna be as grand, big, and immersive sounding, and the stage also does not have the same sense of scale and reverb effect as the Astros. And when it comes to the comfort, I can listen to these for a longer period of time, not only because it fits better, it's less heavy, it's smaller, the Twilights do stick out a little bit, can wiggle around sometimes, and overall these are also smoother when it comes to the upper mids, which makes them a better candidate for longer sessions as well, on top of the more comfy fit. Similar story with the Singularity. It's also a highly acclaimed single DD, great bass texture, better imaging and tech, I would say, than the Astros actually, like more sub-bass focus, deeper rumble, ever slight V-shape. It's definitely more dynamic in your face, a more vibrant kind of sound compared to the Astros, and they're also like 1.3K, so also more expensive. I would probably take the Singularity when it comes to like hip hop or pop because it is a little bit more aggressive, and that extra little bit of energy when it comes to the vocals and the sub-bass really does make it better when it comes to certain genres. However, I just can't crank the Singularity as much, similar to the Twilights. Again, the staging just doesn't feel as grand and reverby, it doesn't feel as smooth and natural. The Singularity definitely has better transients. It feels sharper when it comes to the imaging, it feels a little bit more in your face, and it's immersive in a dynamic and fun kind of way, but not as subtle like the Astros, where once you crank them up, they just kind of make you forget what you're doing and they take you on that musical journey. So if I were to rank these, I would put these on the same level as the original Dark Magicians, slightly ahead of the Twilight, slightly ahead of the Singularity. I would say even slightly ahead of the Dark Magicians depending on the song. But yeah, these are very, very good sound wise. The only nitpick I have is the pricing. $900 for a single DD in 2026, kind of a hard sell, which is why we're gonna test how good the build is to see if the Astru is worth its asking price. Alright guys, moment of truth. We're gonna go 1 ton at a time. So this is the meter. Ooh, it's getting close. I hear something. That was around 1K. I don't know if you can tell, but that was around 1K where it cracked. Ooh, it's feeling really tight now. We're almost at 2K on the meter. Let me show you guys. It's still holding out pretty strong. So the shell itself is very strong. It's just that the angle of the nozzle. Okay, we are at 2,000 now. So this is 2,000 tons. So the shell itself is still holding out strong at 2,000. So it's very sturdy. Like, it is titanium. I'm gonna release it and remove the nozzle and see how much more we can get. Oh, it's like kind of stuck there. Okay. So rest in peace, nozzle. But we're gonna keep going. Okay, so now we are at just over 3,000 tons. And the shell is still holding out pretty strong. I don't know if I want to keep going, but... Alright, so we are close to 4. I'm going to say like 3.6. This is no joke. It's denting the wood. And the IEM itself, the shell itself, still has not cracked on the sides yet. Maybe the top has been cracked. I don't know. But we're going to hit 4K. And then we're going to call it a day. And then we'll keep going in the next video with some other stuff as well. Because I don't know how much my wood can handle this. Oh, my thing broke because it can't handle the force. So that was at around 4,000. I don't know. Yeah, it came back down to 3.6, but it was close to like 4. I would say it was probably like 3.8, 3.9 when that happens. So I'm gonna try to get a better support, and then we're gonna try in another video to see if we can crack the shell on this bad boy. But yeah, I'm gonna lift it up and check for what damages we done to the poor Astru that did not ask for this. Oh my god, okay. Sorry, Meze, but this is for science. Okay, alright, let's see. Okay, yeah, the top definitely got squished, but the overall shell still held its shape. Aside from the nozzle breaking, which is unfortunate due to the angle, you know, it's gonna break no matter what material due to the angle. Overall, the build quality on this is really good. Like, yeah, this is really good build quality. Approved. So in conclusion, the Astrus are very well built from how it handled the hydraulic press. You are getting what you paid for when it comes to the build, the materials. The sound is also incredibly musical and immersive, right up there with one of my favorite IEMs, which is also around the same price, and also better than a lot of the expensive kilobuck plus IEMs. Also super comfy. So if you include all of those together, you could make an argument for it being worth the asking price of $900. However, I do think that it is still a bit pricey. Personally, I would have loved it if these came out at around like 500, maybe 600, because that's around the same as the original DM, which was already very pricey back in the days. The Astrus are a slightly better version of the original DMs, also comfier, better build, so it kind of makes sense with inflation if it was priced around 600. I think that's the maximum I would blindly recommend a single DD. For most people, I'm gonna say wait for these to go on sale. I doubt they're gonna go under 700, but you know, keep an eye out, get it used if you can, and if you have money to spare, like if you're just balling in the dough, you know, get these. These are very good. I highly recommend them, but they are very, very expensive. Anyhow, I hope this review was helpful. I hope you guys like the addition of the hydraulic press. Let me know which IEM you want to see next get pressed. But yeah, thanks for watching, and I will see you guys soon.
Special thanks to Mr. Dom Q, Zenu, B. Urak, Walker Standard, User, Sukasa, Guava Juice Bane, Polly J, Mr. Gorilla, CT Jax, Henry Claudia, Son of a Horse, 777ZK, PM The Wizard, Obi, Treble Well Extended, Matt Herc, TR8, Shembakle, FKSRG, Cousin Fat Fat, Tomat Pat for Shake, Twale, Addy, Michael, Trackstar, Raphael, Ori, Ryan Coffee, Edwin Beta, Tortcog, Effinadim, Chimika, Raj, Javir, Gelbog, Ocean, BC Knight, AK131, MN Gelato, On Balance, Victor Ken, Tuna, JRX, Samuel, John Simon, Kaminari, Archie, Evan, Forrest, Ninja Watcher, Brendan Fish, Slow-Mo Rain, Sir Eisen JJ, Skiller, Alexa, Ali Music, JPLA, Blura Nerd, ATGBB, Orlando, Furuto, Sam Z, E Green, Geranium, Derek, Sean, and Spinner. Thank you guys so much for the support.